Hey there. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are tuning in at. I'm doing last minute check here just of the microphones, make sure the camera is working okay. It looks like we have everything under control here. Still using this new Ecamm Live software. It's really good software that allows you to do lots of neat things, but there's lots of buttons to be pressed and check boxes to check off. So today I want to talk to you about what is probably the single most important thing to your success as a healthcare provider. And it's not about your location, it's not about insurance, not about your staff. It's something different than those that has, I think, and I'll hopefully explain today, a far greater impact on the overall success of your program and your growth than any of those things. So let me start by illustrating it maybe with a story. Back in 1995, I had just gotten married to my wife of now 24 years and graduated Georgia State University with my MBA degree. I was on top of the world, thought I was the king. We almost immediately began building our first brick and mortar business, which would ultimately turn into multiple businesses and then even a franchise system. And back in those days, I was very interested and into learning how to be a better salesperson. And so back and forth to work and all times in between, I would listen to cassette tapes in my car. Anybody out there remember the good old days of cassette tapes? So I had all the old greats, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy. Heck, I was even into Dan Kennedy back then. And the world was a very different place back then. And I'm getting to a point that I'm going to illustrate here. Back in those days, the sales process was really focused around, and you were taught to control the flow of information. He who can control the flow of information between the seller and the buyer wins. And so that's how a lot of us older people were trained when we were coming up, that, always leave them wanting more, never show all your cards, that kind of a mentality, which has unfortunately stuck with many of you out there who, again, were old enough in those days to have listened to those same audio tapes. You got to remember back then, really, Google wasn't even founded until 1998. And so there was really no internet per se. AOL existed, and those of you who are old enough also remember the 24K or 2400K dial-up modems, which would disconnect if anybody ever called in to your house. And it was forever, like an hour just to download one single document from the internet. So people didn't have access to the kind of information that they have now. And then, of course, over the last 20 years, we've had this internet revolution, which really didn't even get into its full swing, as this is related at least, until maybe about 10 years ago. And so up until that point, if anybody wanted to buy anything, they were required to engage with the salesperson, the seller of that product or service. So, But the internet changed all of that, and unfortunately, the mindset of many of the doctors we work with and talk to hasn't quite caught up with that and adapted yet. So I was reading a piece of research the other day, very well-respected entity, did a ton of research across all different types of categories, found out that 57% of the buying decision is now made before the buyer ever reaches out to contact the seller. And of course, it's the internet that's responsible for that. So let's give a good example. Back in the old days, if you wanted to buy a car, your only choice was to go out, get in your car, drive around to dealerships, see what they had on the lot, and try to hope that that car salesman gave you the best advice to find the best car for you. And then you might compare a couple of different models or dealerships and make your buying decision. That was it. That was all you had to work with. But think about the last time you actually bought a car. I'm willing to bet if you're like the rest of the world, the first thing you did was probably you went online. You went online and you probably went to the manufacturer's site first, because you know that at the manufacturer's site, let's say you want to buy a Mercedes, you can go there, you can see good pictures, you can find out what the current models are. Is informative data on what the features are, what they look like. You can see pictures, but you probably didn't just stop there. You probably also may have gone to a third-party site that allows you to do kind of a head-to-head comparison, Mercedes versus BMW or Lexus. And that enabled you to see all the features side by side, see pictures, and try to narrow it down to the model that you liked. You were looking to try to identify that right product. And then once you've figured out, okay, I want this Mercedes E-Class car, I'm going to now find the dealership that's right for me, because there's more than one dealership in my market selling these cars. So now you probably are online looking at different dealership sites. And if I'm a betting guy, I'm going to bet that one of the things you absolutely looked at were the reviews and the testimonials of the previous customers of that dealership. You want to know from those previous buyers, did they have a good experience? Did they get the car they wanted? Did they feel pressured? All those things that you're trying to avoid so that you make the best buying decision possible for yourself. Well, that's a very different story now than it was 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. Now, all of the information somebody could ever want on the products and services that you are offering is available to them online with just a little bit of time and energy devoted to looking it up. That's exactly what your buyers are doing now. So if your mentality is, I'm going to play it close to the vest and not give out all of my information or play my cards, then you're taking yourself out of the equation in many respects. Now, there are some situations, like maybe giving out prices for your services, that I still recommend you don't do on like a first phone call, or certainly not on your website at least. So there is a time and a place. But in general, the salesperson no longer controls the sales process. The power has now been delivered to the buyer. And so let me bring that back to trust, which is the single most important thing that you can do to really establish yourself as the right person, the right practice for your patients. So there's two different kinds of trust. First, there's trust that the product that I'm looking into is the right product, and it can do what it says it can do, and it has the right features for me. That can be found in generic research all over the internet. But two, the next piece is that now they've got to know which is the right seller for me, because you're not the only person offering those services. And I guarantee in the medical field, there's a whole lot in your market that are probably offering very similar services. So you have to think about both of those elements of trust. Now, how are they going to identify those things about you in your practice and your services? Well, the first thing they're going to do is check your website, just like I went to the Mercedes-Benz dealership to look at the different current models and features and pictures and all that. Your healthcare buyers are doing the same thing. They're going to your website. They're looking, do you look the part? Is this the right service? Do they even have the right service that I'm looking for or that I think I might need? But then they're also going to be looking at reviews, just as I would look at reviews on cars and dealerships. So they're looking at reviews on product level. Does this product actually work? Will it resolve whatever pain issue I have? And then two, of course, they're looking at testimonials at the seller level. Does this doctor, does this practice look like the right one for me? Do they have happy patients who are singing their praises? Do they have negative reviews? Do they have no reviews at all? That's just almost as bad as having negative reviews. Do they respond to reviews? If somebody says that they've had a problem or an issue, does this practice step up and engage with that person and try to make things right? Everybody knows you're never going to make 100% of the people happy all the time. It doesn't happen. But people do expect that you at least try to engage with that person and make things right. So really, your online reviews and how you respond to them and how you build and grow and publish those and get them out there is probably the number one issue out of the whole trust, which is in itself the number one issue. And then, of course, people are also just naturally looking at social media. They're just programmed to do that. That's the platform that they're naturally on. They're at least going to go and look at your Facebook page and see, do they exist? Do they have any content? Are they posting anything at all? Does this look, again, it's a look and feel. Does this look like the right provider? Because I have a lot to choose from. And so I need to make sure I make the right decision for my health and my well-being. So I'll leave you with that thought there. I just wanted to really try to hit that point home that there is nothing more important than trust right now. And if you're one of those who are still in the old school of leave them wanting more and play it close to the vest and don't give them all the information they need, understand they already have all the information they need. What you need to do is prove that you're the right solution to deliver that service for them. So that's all I will share with you today. As always, my website here is below if any of you want to reach out and have a conversation, talk about this, or maybe how we can help you grow your practice. That's a great way to reach us. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next video. Thanks so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.